like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols.
Boruto episode 161 review. Alright guys, I really thought this episode was super entertaining. There were actual things that were happening in this episode that made it seem very, very interesting. And of course, the biggest part about this episode is going to be the shinobi team that we did see in the last episode that was seducing the scientists. Now, it seemed like they were completely masquerading as females. They had the same sort of sexy jutsu as Boruto. Not as elite as Boruto, but that's besides the point. They basically did the exact same thing with the exact same intentions of actually getting their hands on the Hashirama cells. Now, off the rip, I really like this team. Of course, when we talk about the anime of Boruto, it's always synonymous with the time of peace. Now, this new team right here, they're pretty much not from a time of peace. Their village is probably going to be a lot like how the Hidden Leaf village used to be in part 1 and part 2 of Naruto. So, of course, they're probably not going to be, one, as lenient, and two, not as playful as nowadays in the Hidden Leaf village. And we've seen that on full display right here. One of the obvious differences about the two teams is obviously how they tried to get the Hashirama cells. Konohamaru told Boruto, like, hey, go in, be discreet, and take the Hashirama cells. This other team said, F that, killed the super rich lady, which her name was Sakuya, and then killed the butler as well. In the span of like 2 minutes, it's like they did not care at all. Their main mission was to get the Hashirama cells and get out. And that's exactly what they're on their way to doing. Now, this mission for them didn't necessarily come without any casualties. Before Boruto and Konohamaru masquerading as the scientists actually went into the castle, we seen a casualty from that squad. Now, if you guys do recall, when they were females, and even in the last episode when they weren't females, when they were just actually looking on and basically seeing as how sexy jutsu Boruto completely stole the scientists away from them, there were basically 4 people. In this particular episode, we seen 3 of them. And of course, before they did go in, we seen a casualty. So that pretty much tells me that that right there was actually probably one of them that got caught. They were trying to enter the castle in a different way. And after they seen that way couldn't work, they pretty much used Boruto to then enter the castle that way. One of the questions that I really do have, and I think, of course, we can't necessarily automatically slander people because we have to understand that these shinobis are also very good shinobis as well. They are basically executing their mission at a very high efficiency rate. But Mujino and Sarada, their sole task on this mission so far has been to make sure Boruto and Konohamaru are good. They are there to provide backup. How they did not see this other team completely tracking their movements and capitalizing off every single move they make is beyond me. And especially with a character like Sarada, mainly because she has these Sharingan. She can see chakra. Even if they are hiding, she can still see their chakra signature and understand that, hey, some people are right there that are trailing Boruto and Konohamaru. But that just did not happen. That right there was definitely a surprise to me. One of the other good things about this episode is the fact that we actually got to see Deepa and Victor in this episode. And of course, Deepa had a bigger impact in this episode than what we actually seen from him in the previous episode that we did see him. Now, of course, Victor and Deepa didn't necessarily have a big part in this episode, but we understood they definitely wanted to show them, mainly because the writers wanted them to have an impact in this episode, and to also give us some characteristics about Deepa and Victor, not only them as individuals, but also their dynamic as a duo. And of course, in this episode, I think the biggest takeaway from this is going to be Deepa, his tendencies, and of course his voice. This is the first time that we actually seen his voice.
What?
Now, we knew that he was going to have a speaking role in this, mainly because Organic Dinosaur, she's basically the goat of everything. She tweeted out earlier this week and said that Deepa was going to play a much bigger role. Now, me personally, as I said, I like Deepa's voice and I think it completely matches his look. In the fully dedicated video, when I did talk about Deepa when his character was actually introduced, I said that 1, he looks like a jokester, and 2, he reminds me of Orochimaru. He really does remind me of a character like Orochimaru, and he seems extremely playful in that type of manner. And not only that, the interaction between Victor and Deepa basically mimics that. You see Deepa as a character that pretty much all he wants to do is fight. As soon as Victor told Deepa that the Hashirama cells is basically in the land of silence, Deepa understood that that is pretty much a lawless village, and him causing trouble in that village wouldn't necessarily be out of character for that particular village, so it probably wouldn't cause that big of a problem for the Kata organization. And before Victor could even tell Deepa, like, hey, do not cause any trouble, Deepa was already out of there. It's like as soon as he heard that it was going down in the land of silence in the trenches, he was already there. He was all for it, and I absolutely love that about Deepa. He just showed you his actual characteristics and also what he stands for. But obviously the biggest thing to take away from that scene is the fact that the Kata organization are actually going to be entering the land of silence. Now, at this particular point, we understand that Team 7, they're pretty much going to be hunted by everybody in the land of silence, mainly because there is a reward for capturing them, and everybody in the land of silence wants money. That's pretty much going to draw a lot of attention towards Team 7, and because of that, in my opinion, it almost guarantees a confrontation of Deepa and Team 7. Possibly not a full-blown confrontation where Deepa is actually trying to capture Team 7 Hashirama to return them for a reward, but I definitely would not find it surprising at all if deepa was just interested and wanted to see exactly who everybody in the village was chasing after. Because as was evident in the scene, of course deepa understands his overall mission is to potentially retrieve the Hashirama cells. He also would not mind causing a little bit of trouble while he's there as well. Now, some other things in this episode that was actually interesting as well. One of the things that I did talk about in the preview is that I really thought that the butler was going to be potentially a simp. Now, I really didn't think I was going to be absolutely this accurate. Not only is he a simp, he's like a tier 3 sub type of simp to this female named Sakuya, to the point where my man said that he would literally willingly risk his life and just throw his life away just for Sakuya to potentially take a couple of wrinkles off of her face. And not only did he want to do it once, he potentially wants to do it twice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, pick up what I'm throwing down. If Boruto was not there and he entered just with Konohamaru, the butler was going to potentially ask Konohamaru to operate on him before he actually got the chance to operate on Sakuya. In my days, I've seen simps, but I never seen a simp like this. He literally tried to risk his life potentially twice just so this lady could get a couple of wrinkles taken off of her face. And don't get me started on Sakuya. This lady got arguably the most dangerous thing and also the most valuable thing amongst ninjas just to get some wrinkles taken off her face. Like, do the ninja world not know about Botox? Their first remedy was automatically the Hashirama cell. And not only that, suppose they talking about they tested it out on a little girl. Now, we already know that little girl, mainly because in this episode, we've seen her get cured of the Hashirama cells from the antibodies from Mitsuki. Now, the butler said that that girl turned into a complete monster. And the first thing that butler said, like, hey, this thing can actually turn Sakuya a little bit younger. No, that shouldn't be what you just took away from that. It should be automatically, hell no, I'm returning this Hashirama cell and I'm going nowhere next to it. Not only him, but also Sakuya. But in conclusion, as I said earlier, I thought this episode was definitely good. Actual things actually happened in this episode. It might not be exactly related to the Kado organization, but regardless, the action in this episode was definitely amazing in my opinion. And of course, I definitely do want to see a lot more of the other team that we did see in this episode. And not only them, but also some other potential teams that are actually also looking for the Hashirama cells as well. As I spoke about in previous videos, Mujino actually told everybody in Team 7 that there were also some shinobi from other smaller villages in the Land of Silence, and he hypothesized that they were there only for the sole reason of the Hashirama cell. So of course, it definitely would not be a stretch for us to run into some other teams later on down the line. But let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below, and let me know if you guys liked it as much as I did personally. My favorite part had to be the actual introduction of this new team and how they completely slaughtered 2 people in like the first 2 minutes. It was absolutely insane. It just showed how different Team 7 is from this actual new team from a smaller village. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.